last years of the 19th century, that human affairs were being watched from the timeless worlds of space. No one could have dreamed we were being scrutinized as someone with a microscope studies creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. Few men even considered the possibility of life on other planets. And yet, across the gulf of space, minds immeasurably superior to ours regarded this Earth with envious eyes. And slowly and surely, they drew their plans against us.
Broadcasting live
from a tiny studio somewhere in North America.
This is Dark Matters Radio Live. And now I give you your host,
the silverback of ufology.
Here's Don Ecker.
Well, greetings, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between. Welcome back to a brand new Dark Matters Radio. Tonight, we're going to be kind of slicing and dicing between two topics. The very first topic concerns artificial intelligence and how it definitely will have an effect on the UFO UAP topic. And later on, we're going to be discussing, because I've seen a lot more chatter about it, AI Atlas. The thing is winding its way through the solar system right now. And speaking of AI, I saw a video yesterday, purportedly from Dr. Michio Kaku, talking about AI Atlas. And he seemed to be going the way that this thing very well may have many elements of artificiality about it. Now, when I saw that, I did not question that this could be somebody's deep fake, and I sent it out to a number of people. And I heard back from several suggesting this might not be what it portends to be. So with that being said, let me go to my guest tonight, Mr. Stepen Bradford. And Stepen has been deep into the AI subject and topic. And also, he has a new documentary that has, from what I understand, recently come out. So let's find out what's going on. Marc Center and Gerry Kissell, of course, are right here with us. And take us out, Bill. Bill? Is everybody there?
Yeah, Don, you need to check the chat from time to time, because he said he had a problem and it was spiky output, so he had to reboot.
Ah, well, that explains a lot. Did you guys hear anything in my opening remarks?
Oh yeah. He didn't affect that at all, and I can't see your video right now, but he didn't affect that at all.
Okay, well, there we go. How's that?
There you go.
And I introduced our guest tonight, Stepen Bradford. Stepen, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for having me. It's been a while, but it's always great to come back on and see everyone.
You bet. And you heard what I said?
I did. Absolutely.
Okay, very, very well. Okay, well, let's get this shindig going. Stepen, I saw a video yesterday purportedly by Michio Kaku talking about Three-Eye Atlas.
Mhm.
And hey, he was very seemingly positive to it. And I sent it out to a number of people. One of them was Mark Center. And Mark got back to me basically suggesting this was a fake. Now, using AI these days, I guess it's very possible to make some very convincing fakes. What's been your experience with it?
Yes, Don. As you know, I work in the creative advertising space. So AI is something that I use in my job daily, and I've watched it progress leaps and bounds from where it was even just a year or two ago. And I think, as many benefits as AI is going to have on not just UFO research, but just research in general, I think it also has the duality in that it can be misused. And what we're seeing now is a lot of very believable fakes that involve not just UFOs, celebrities. We recently had a case where they successfully used AI to fake a security cam footage of someone stealing something that would have landed you and I in jail, but it was completely fictitious. So I think we have to be good stewards of the information and do the double checking. I think there are some hallmarks about AI that if you know it, a little bit about it, you can start to call it out. Mainly, they're not quite as high fidelity as you would expect from an actual camera. Secondly, they tend to be limited to about 4 to 10 to 12 seconds, which if you notice and you go on social media, you see these fantastic clips now of these triangles and just all this high fidelity stuff that just we never saw before, but they're coincidentally coinciding with AI. And I would express to you that most of it is AI generated, and you can tell that largely by its output size and the duration of the clip. That 10-second limit. I mean, let's be honest, Don. If you had a crystal clear triangle, I just saw a video the other day, crystal clear triangle, blue lights underneath flashing. It was so convincing that when the blue light flashed, the clouds behind it lit up. And then in 5 seconds, the whole video clip is over. Now, put your investigator hat on, Don, and imagine you're filming that through your window. Would you ever, for any reason, stop filming after 4 to 6 seconds?
No.
Of course not. No, that should be a 20-minute long video until the thing blasts away. But yet it just suddenly ends. And it's usually accompanied with spooky music, just something that wouldn't fit right. So just again, like I said, I think we all have to be very careful. I've been convinced a couple times and had to dig a little bit deeper to see. And I frankly, about a year ago, I didn't realize how far AI had come, especially with video. So you have to be on your toes. It's a great.
I got a question, just to start this off. Like when I found some websites on YouTube that are doing a lot of Elvis Presley stuff, like Predator. They're 2 and 3 minutes long. Now, granted,
yes,
the way they put it together could only be like 10 seconds at a whack. I get it. But
yes.
How long do you think it's going to take until the uncanny valley is finally, and they summit that, and it gets to the point where unless the producers, the people who make the software, the government gets involved, it's going to be a huge shit show?
Well, correct. That's a great question. And Elon Musk just said that his next version of Grok, that's his version of AI, is going to be capable of essentially making a movie from written prompts.
Right.
We're going to be perhaps looking at maybe a year and a half. Moore's law is really in effect when it comes to this. It is exponentially increasing in power, seemingly monthly. There's a great test that they started, I think, back in 2016, and that was a prompt of Will Smith eating pasta.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Correct. So now every iteration of AI has to go through what they call the Will Smith pasta test. And each iteration, you can watch what it looked like in 2016. It looked like some sort of fine art project, maybe like Salvador Dali. It was all sort of hokey pokey, blurry. It just looked impressionistic. It didn't look at all real. And today, the most recent one that I saw on Grok and Sora looked almost photorealistic. Now, I'm sure at like 1080 or 4K, it's not going to look good, and that's a tell. However, when you're looking at this stuff on mobile devices, which is how most people consume, information these days, it's very convincing. So in just a handful of years, it went from something that looked laughable like a student art project to something nearly photorealistic. So and recently I just saw a production company release their first science fiction short using completely AI. So, there are some limits on the time, but what they're doing is they're editing it. But in terms of just raw end to end, I think someone said it might be up to 2 to 3 minutes now. It just depends on what software it is, and how it's being rendered and what the limitations are. But
I would say the bigger issue at the moment, when I watch the Elvis stuff, the audio is astounding, and audio is far less of a hassle to deal with. So we could have Philip J. Corso out here at some point saying all sorts of horse shit, and if they get good enough, we're not going to know.
correct, and I think that's where it's going to get a little bit scary. I mean, I can't even imagine how you're going to prosecute a case successfully in the age of AI. I mean, you can literally just say it's not me. I didn't do that. I have an angry ex that did
some
this.
of it still has this thing that catches. I always catch it. Like I'll look at it and I go, "Oh, that's not real."
It's a little waxy.
Yeah, there's this weird movements. It'll be eye movement gives it away a lot of the time.
Well, eyes are tough.
Facial movements, or you'll see something like for a single frame, like globulate.
Right. And they used to struggle with things. Two areas that used to struggle on, which recently got addressed in the new update of both Nano, Banana, and Soro, is the consistency of characters throughout rendering. So if I wanted to render a scene multiple, using the same craft across 4 different renders, it would typically alter the craft slightly. It would never be the same craft identical from different angles. They've now solved that to where the consistency is dead on. So that is one thing that you saw. And it would also struggle with things like fingers and eyeballs. Like you'd see 6 fingers.
And that's where the globulization happens.
Right, but they're
like
getting
a finger
good.
roll under and then come back out. And it's like really weird.
I don't know if you've seen the ones that look like a body cam footage of celebrities getting arrested. And it's just, I mean, you almost have to do a double take. I mean, if you're looking at that on your phone in the morning and you haven't like cleaned your eyes, it's
like Obama getting arrested in the Oval Office.
I saw one on the side of the road. It was Trump dressed like a woman, and it was just it was dead on. Even the way he spoke and the way it synced. I mean, it was, if it wasn't so over the top, you would believe it.
Well, let's bring this up. Most people are going to see this on their pads and their cell phones and things, so the quality doesn't have to be as good. However, we're still inundated with potato cam UFO footage to this day. So it seems to me that these guys can just crank it down and use filters and algorithms and things and pretty much match what the government's been releasing, and you're not going to be able to tell.
And that's a great point, Mark. And you can do that with prompting. You can get as specific as, I want this to look like it was filmed on a 1947 film camera with Kodak grain and this development look, or this film, whether it be Provia or Fuji color, and it will do something pretty close to that. So I mean, you can tell it that you want it to look like a Leica 1.2 lens shot at 6 feet away, and it comes up with something pretty darn close. Again, it's not perfect, but it was really bad a year ago, and now it's really good. So in my mind, what it looks like in a year from now or 2 years from now is anyone's bet. It's going to look superb, and it's going to make research much more difficult.
Right.
Okay, let me interject here. I've been thinking about this a lot. Okay, what AI conceivably portends for this field. UFO, UAP, and as good as it is now, and I can only assume it's going to be getting even better as time moves along, this is going to destroy the field because you're not going to be able to believe anything.
Well, it's getting ready to put a hurt locker on Hollywood for sure.
Well, yeah, and even more so when you're talking potato cam and all that, with the billions and billions of tree cameras and fence cameras and the building cameras that I always bang on, the Bigfoot stuff is even worse now. I mean, yeah. I can't even watch it. I just move on. They could find it, and I'm going to look at it and go, maybe.
No, but to Don's point, I think what it's going to now require, unfortunately, is we've lived in such a digital age that's been so reliant on film and video and in photos that now those are going to, once again, those used to be, we used to start the field with a lot of witness accounts without any actual video or photographic evidence because not everyone had a camera in the early days. We're going to flip it around now where it's going to require, to get to the bottom of these cases, the good investigative approach. Do we have multiple witnesses? Do we have multiple angles of the same object from different people, from different cameras? So unfortunately now it's going to take more brains and more research. And unfortunately, as we know about this field, I don't know if that exists currently.
No.
There's no more Don Eckers out in the field driving all over to Vegas to go look at a photograph and investigate the person trying to sell it and those adventures that he went on. That really doesn't exist now. So that's going to be an issue. So either the researchers are going to have to step up their game or everyone's just going to be bamboozled. And it is, as to Don's point, going to wreck the field.
And sadly, you've got, and I won't name them, I'm not going to bag on them, but you have older researchers from Don's area and a little newer who have no problem releasing the stuff and holding it up and say, I don't know, but this might be, and take a look at it. And yeah, you're right. There's very few people left.
And for the gullible, and there's unfortunately far too many in this field, it's going to lead some people down some paths, and it might be by design.
Well, if the day comes when ET, for whatever reason, decides to actually invade the planet, Three-Eye Atlas, who knows? Well, 85% of the people are going to say, bullshit, that's AI fake.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And what great plausible deniability does everyone have now? Because that's literally all you have to say. And not just with ufology, as I mentioned before, whether it's, a crime scene, CCTV footage of you supposedly doing something, criminal cases rely on reasonable doubt. And in this day, it's reasonable that someone could have AI generated that and sent it or, did whatever they did with it. So it's going to make it not just harder on UFO research. I think it's going to make it harder on a lot of different things.
So I used to watch the Mystery History and Mystery History Channel 2 a couple of years ago, and they really did put out a lot of cool stuff about archaeology, digging. And what I've noticed now, though, with AI is they're constantly releasing stuff similar to Underneath the Pyramids, but everywhere. Ancient vehicles are being found here and there. And you're looking at this stuff and it's like, if you were a teenager watching this stuff, I can only imagine what your thinking process is going to be when you're 30 or 40 years old. I mean, it's such pollution. Huge amounts of pollution are going to get in there.
And also to your point, it doesn't help that we have this emergence of AI quality and fidelity sort of coalescing with social media platforms that are thirsty and hungry for clicks.
Right.
Now we have is one in particular, Stephen.
We have the intersection of both, and it really is disastrous where you actually have, entire channels just dedicated. And it's been this way for a while, but you're going to start to see more of it.
Well, you're seeing it right now because Grok has been updating about every 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
And we've just got the latest iteration of Grok. Now, when I looked at the latest video that got put out to promote it, I immediately knew that was AI. No matter how photorealistic it was too good. It was too clear. And it was a close-up of a girl with rain on her face and her eyes moving around.
Right.
Very ultra-realistic.
I think that's too much. Right.
But this is what's happening because Grok is part of X, Elon's thing.
Correct.
He's
Correct.
promoting the shit out of Grok.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never seen so much fake stuff to where I personally have to scrutinize every story that comes across my desk before I'll share it. Because I got to make sure that video is not somebody punking.
And it's not only AI. Don got sucked in by one of them, and I did too. We have classic movies that we love, and it's Kurt Russell is going to come back in the third Escape, and it's going to be from Mars. And you look at it and go, oh my God. And then you look a little deeper and you go,
yeah. They're AI generating key art now to make it look
right.
Like,
and
the X-Files is returning, and it's
right.
Like
I find it very interesting that they have the technology to weed this stuff out. And I always use the example of hardcore porn on Facebook and YouTube. You will never find it. You will never find it because they can take care of all of this stuff. But like you said, the clicks are money, it's interaction, and this isn't hardcore porn. So they're not going to do anything about this.
And it's just too easy. So you're seeing reputable sites that otherwise would be trusted that are just leaning into AI and throwing it on their thumbnail or cutting to it without really citing it or calling it AI. And again, like to Gary's point, like he was able to tell something was AI. But if you're just, some average Joe in the Midwest, it's just sort of semi-competent with technology. And my dad sends me stuff all the time, like China's new fighter. And it's some AI. I mean, it looks like something out of Star Trek.
Oh, yeah.
It's clearly AI generated, but he's 81 years old. It was on a website. It's a picture. It has to be real, right? And it's like, I understand that it's not, but there's a swath of society that has no idea.
So do you think, just a guess here, with the advent of the drone situation we had for the last 18 months or so, do you think a fair percentage of that was potato cam AI crap?
What I noticed, it looked like a lot of digital cameras and cell phone cameras that simply were unable to lock focus. So what it was doing is it was distorting the actual object in the sky, because when a camera can't lock focus, it hunts. So it zooms in and out to try to, it not really zooms in and out. It just goes from different focal lengths trying to lock focus. And what it looks like the object is morphing or doing something. So what I've seen lately is a lot of people have been posting these videos of planes, but what's happening is their phone or their camera is having trouble auto-focusing on the moving object. So you see the focus starting to hunt. And as it hunts, you see the plane go in and out of focus. It turns into a blob, out of focus, snaps back into focus. And you have these people online that's saying, look, it's a hologram pretending to be an airplane. Watch it change shapes. And if you're not up on cameras and you don't shoot cameras every day like I do, it looks really odd. It looks super strange and it doesn't look right. But to somebody who's ever shot a photograph and understands how autofocus works, especially on something in the distance against a similar background where it's just hunting for those 5 pixels that might be the plane, it's going to look strange. So once again, I think the field has to become educated, which good luck.
I think it can't, because in the 90s, we had Michael Hessman, and he didn't know this stuff back then, so I'm not going to bag on the guy, but they would show the triangles in the air, and that was part of the camera's hardware
Aperture.
in there.
Yes.
Well, then they showed that green stuff from the Navy, and it was the same thing. And
it was the aperture of the camera.
Right.
When
but they didn't learn.
Down, you're seeing the actual shape of the aperture. That's not and if you notice, we're talking about the Navy footage.
Right.
That showed apparently the flying pyramids. But what was crazy is every single light source in the shot, whether it was on the ship, whether it was a star, everything was a triangle, which tells you something is going on with the optics. And they've tested it. I think I saw Hansen, the former FBI guy. I don't know, what's his name? Jamie Hansen did Fact or Faked on Sci-Fi Channel.
Right.
Right. He's really into night vision, and he's sort of a believer, but even he went out and he got the exact version of night vision that they had on that night.
Right.
He tested it, and every single star in the sky looked like a pyramid.
Yeah, but now he called it out, and because we've been around since the 80s and 90s, thought they never called it out, and it's still shown.
They're still showing it, and it's ridiculous that they can't. They want to call themselves investigators and researchers when all the information's there to show you that even though there might be a real phenomena, that video in itself just isn't part of the narrative. That's just optics. Right. That's it. And all of them had an FAA compliant strobe. So my point is if you're an anomalous object or you're even something from another nation, you're not going to put an FAA compliant strobe on your vehicle. That tells me that it's very prosaic and it's probably an airplane.
Yep. Exactly. By the way, guys, just to let you know, Marc Dantonio is here. Marc Center is always here. And he is in the back right now to join us.
Bring him on, Don. Bring him on.
There he is.
Hey, Mr. Dantonio, escuch.
I didn't see anyone comment about my title. I have an official title now under my name.
Uncredited ufologist.
Yeah, just thought it would be fun.
Uh-oh, don't have audio on you, Mark.
We can't hear you, Marcus.
We still can't hear you.
He's checking it. He's doing what I do.
Oh,
I would like to say, though, before we pivot topics, that we talked about the way that AI can be misused through generating, fake and nefarious videos and photographs, which it's, becoming more capable of each day. It also has the potential to do a lot of really good research. And, as Don and a few others know, I do documentary films. About a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I did a short film on Norio Hayakawa. And one of the issues, just quite simply, was we would do long form interviews with him, sometimes 2 hours long. We would have to get those transcribed. So we would have to hire somebody, probably, in Asia or somewhere, like a couple $100, and they would send us back, a beautiful transcription of each interview. And now there's websites where I can go and, pay $9 a month, and I get 120 minutes to do transcriptions. Mm-hmm. And so one of the projects that I've done now, which I've shared sort of clandestinely with Don, but it's something that I'd like to get done in the next year or so, is I have started taking all of the episodes that I have of Dark Matters Radio going back, maybe as far back as 2012, and I'm running them through transcription to go ahead and make sure that we're preserving these episodes. And the great way that it works is once it's transcribed, depending on which AI software you're using, the one that I'm using actually goes in and gives you a summary of the entire episode. It breaks down the key points, and then it gives you the full transcript. And then once that's in an AI form, or it's in a PDF file, I can then feed that back into AI and then ask AI specifically about that episode and just pull out parts that I need that might be relevant to whatever type of research that I'm doing. So I think moving forward, not just for UFO research, but for research in general, it's very powerful. I would love to see, and I'm sure they've done this, this is not a huge idea, but I would love to see somebody take a database like MUFON or whatever Jacques Vallée has, and I'd love to see them start getting that into an AI system and then just prompting it and trying to determine, based on all of the information that's in there, like what's the most likely location for a UFO sighting at 10 p.m. in September. And it's going to, who knows, or what is the through line on all of the witnesses? Is there an age? Is there a blood type? Is there a demographic and nationality that sort of lends itself more? Like, it's just, you can start prompting it. And once the data's in the system, you can really, it's endless. And then you can ask it to make predictions, like where you think the next mass sighting is going to be based on all the historical data.
Well, with all that data, Steven, does it start calling me the silverback yet?
I think you're always the silverback.
You can look yourself up in Gemini.
Mark, as a visual effects guy, your opinion on this AI is really valuable because Center asked a little bit ago about, some of the things that we saw over the last 18 months. How much of that might have been AI? Not just visual effects, but just straightforward AI with drones, etc. What do you think?
On a daily basis, I will be looking at things in social media and say, yep, AI generated. Especially, I think you were mentioning, I think it was Steven was mentioning the movie trailers for upcoming movies
that aren't really coming right.
They're vapor acetate. There's nothing actually happening. Okay. But it's just wishful thinking. Kind of neat to look at. So AI is causing us a problem both in ufology and in photo and video analysis. And as the head guy in the MUFON photo analysis team, I have to say that I've had an awful lot of very good AI fakes come through our door. And I've seen people submit these things honestly because someone not so honestly created it and passed it on. And then that person said, oh, look what this is. This is real. Mark, look here. Here is the Rosetta Stone of ufology.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it wasn't. It's not. It's AI. So, in terms of that, yeah. A lot of these AI memes are just downright funny because they're meant to be. Usually they show a very heavy woman on a diving board. She jumps off, and of course the whole place explodes with water everywhere, washing everybody away. And then you see a tidal wave knocking buildings down. Hello, that's funny. And you got to be dead not to laugh at those things. But so AI is actually complicating our lives. One of the problems I have is that people submit UFO photos and say, and I ran it through AI in order to see details that we couldn't see. Yeah, okay. Well, guess what? Whatever the resolution on the sensor that you get, it's not going to get any better because you put it through AI. Okay? A fuzzy dot is still going to be a fuzzy dot.
I wanted to ask you something about that. In both of your perspectives, older cases, both still and video, and then newer cases, will it be possible with better AI to actually use it to make it a little clearer, show some stuff that isn't there, but actually pull information out? Like when you change a video to 4K, I've seen them on YouTube, and boy, sometimes they look pretty damn good, or they colorize them. I'm like, holy crap, that does look good, at least on my screen here. So will it be a tool that could be used by smart people to be able to pull out other information, be it comets or whatever?
Well, it already is. It already is a smart tool made, that smart people can use. And as long as you handle it correctly, you'll get the answers that are useful and not degenerate, stuff that, adds detail that's not there to an image.
Right.
My favorite one I saw this oval fuzzy dot, and the guy submitted it to me and said, I put it through AI and look at the portholes. Look at the structure on the bottom of the craft. Wow. And I went, wow, that's just an AI addition. And you probably told it, something that clued it in that this was going to be a UFO. And so it said, I'm not going to disappoint my human, master. And it's going to create something that involves a UFO. Or you let it run to its own, and any subtleties in the change of brightness in the pixels in the image will be interpreted as something that's not there. Again, if you're doing something in 1080p, okay, you can up-res stuff, yes, but you're not actually adding more data than was there originally.
No.
You're just adding supplemental data to round out your resolution. Okay.
Well, I got a question for Steven about AI. Okay, recently I read a couple of articles, not at the same time, but spread out over a few weeks, about how AI, be careful, because it's possible it will lie to you. Stepen.
That's a great point. I'm not going to say it's going to lie to you, but just like a clever defense attorney or a prosecutor can lead a witness, I've been able to lead AI to give me the response that I want. So you hear a lot of people say, well, I asked ChatGPT or I asked AI and AI said it was real. Just for an example, I downloaded the Ramey document about Roswell, where he's holding the document in the hand. Correct? We all know that.
Yeah.
And I asked AI, I said, attempt to transcribe and fill in any unknown words with possible words based on the length of the word, etc. AI says, this is a tough image to work with due to grain, blur, and lighting, but using the visible character spacing, word length, and clues, especially in light of the subject matter, I've reconstructed the best the transcription below. And it's like, as the fading twilight signal, the closing of the age, we find ourselves standing on the threshold of the next world foretold in visions of the wise ones. The project would be what, and some of it says like undiscernible. We may very well be the key to the mystery. Okay. And it says the versions maintain spiritual themes consistent with New Age mess. And so I said, I see a word in quotation marks. What do you think that word is? Great eye. I think the word is plain. Here's why. And I said, could the word be disc? Yes, you're right. Disc is a plausible alternative. Here's a quick breakdown why it could be the word disc. And then it goes, and I said, now knowing that this is the official Roswell memo that Colonel Blanchard held in his hand, can you try to transcribe it again? Yes. Now it says, the victims of the wreck you forwarded to Fort Worth, Texas. The disc was recovered from the crash site and forwarded to the ranch where it was recovered. The wreckage consisted of fragments of a disc. The aviators in the disc were the authorities in Roswell, New Mexico have blank, 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 blank. Key phrases we agree on: victims of the wreck, disc, and recovered. So here was an instance where I was able to basically lead AI into giving me a prosaic deciphering of the Ramey memo, or something a little bit more salacious that talked about discs and bodies and so forth. So whether or not you're going to say it's going to lie to you, I think like a witness, it can be led to give.
Isn't that interesting? I'm glad you did that. That's interesting.
Thank you.
So you could even take, and they've probably done this, sections of the Bible or the Quran or whatever, and not tell them necessarily that that's what it is. Ask something and then flip it and see what they say.
Right. You can give it a bunch of skeptical arguments against that Bible passage and then ask it, now based on this new available information that it's skeptical of the passage, please go back and give me a new opinion. And it will come back with a totally skeptical view of a passage that it previously said was like, well-founded and,
that opens up a whole lot of stuff, Stepen, because you could do that with all kinds of cases.
Yes.
You could do that with the Shroud of Turin.
Well,
here, I got one for you.
Yeah.
A few years ago, there was a lot of chatter about somebody that allegedly discovered a code within the Bible code.
The Bible
right,
code.
Right.
Do you guys recall all of that?
Yeah.
This seems it would be something ideally suited for AI to do some deep research on. Your opinions?
Agreed. I want to feed the Zodiac ciphers into it and see what I'm sure people have done this. This can't be an original idea, but I'm a true crime fan as well. And the Zodiac wrote a bunch of ciphers, one or two of which have never been broken supposedly. So I think, that would be interesting. But again, it looks to me as though it can be led down a path. Now, this is just using ChatGPT. There's other versions. A lot of people go in and build what's called a stack, where they can layer different AI models and packages on top of each other and then run scripts across all of them. And then, we're really just scratching the surface by using kind of the commercial stuff. I have friends that work really closely with AI, and they get in there and they're using, custom scripts across multiple AIs to come away with information that they're after.
Well, you in the civilian sector, okay? You're in the civilian sector, obviously.
Yes.
What the hell do you think military and the IC, the intelligence community, have available to them?
That's a great question, because as you know, they invented the internet. So they were on the forefront of most of the technology, and it seems to trickle down to us 10 and 20 years after they had the mastery of it. I will say, though, it seems like with the power of computing and so forth, I do think that this is really a new emergent technology. I think, we're all kind of getting it. I'm sure they have better resources slightly, but I think AI at this point is really kind of hitting the scene at the same time.
Well, DARPA's got to be on the very, very pointy point up there with this.
For sure. I'm sure they have a much more technical one, because the issue that I'm running into is also limitations. And I think what my fear is with AI is we're going to look back to today's time, let's say 2025, and look at it kind of like the Wild West, just like we used to look at the internet like the Wild West. Oh, anybody can have a website, you can put anything you wanted. I think it's slowly going to be constricted, more regulated. The paywalls are going to become larger. It's just going to be harder and harder to use because it is so powerful, and it does have such potential to, do a lot of positive things, but also a lot of negative things. And I think, obviously AI regulation is things that we're hearing, spoken about in the halls of Congress. How do we regulate this? What does it mean for intellectual property rights? What does it mean for creative rights? Who actually created it? Like, who gets credit for this? Is it Grok, or is it me who's writing the prompt and refining it?
And
here's a question. Yeah. This Michio Kaku video. Now, I still don't know if it's
fake.
AI.
Oh, it's fake. I see it. I can see it, dude. I don't have the experience Marc Dantonio has.
Can I finish my thought, Gerry?
No.
Tough shit. So anyway, how do you get a photograph of somebody like Kaku, all right, and then animate it, get his mouth moving in sync with the audio? I mean,
not hard.
Yeah, it's not hard at all.
Not anymore, Don. It's so good.
It's commonplace.
I'll send you some examples, Don, after the episode.
Yeah, Don, that
Mr.
whole
Rogers
channel, I did some research on it. That entire channel was built for that purpose that you were talking about, for that one person to talk about stuff that they're plugging in there. That whole channel.
Yeah, and as another example, I saw one of these last night. It was Mr. Rogers. He says,
"Yeah, they're great."
Hi, folks. Do you ever get brown streaks on your underwear? Well, and he proceeds to tell you what that's from. Okay, and it's in Mr. Rogers, and I'm watching his mouth and saying, "Yeah, somebody did a synchronization on their words." Yeah.
But I watched Bob Ross fight Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I saw it too. It looked great.
It
looked great.
Yeah.
And then I saw Mr. Rogers with Bigfoot. He says, you may not believe in Bigfoot, and the head pops around. See, I told you.
The era that we're approaching now, and it started. I remember in the 90s, the late 90s, when personal computing and Adobe Photoshop became very prevalent, and everybody had not everybody, but it became more common knowledge. Students had it. Everybody sort of had a way to edit images, so to speak. The field started rejecting all of the cases after digital photography and digital manipulation, and they really wanted to go back and look at the old cases from the 50s and 60s and 70s before digital imagery was so commonplace, because they thought there was a less likelihood of monkey business. And I think moving forward, we're going to look at 2024, 2025 as hallmark years. That comes, when we look at an image, like, well, what year is that one from? Like, is that one from the AI Genesis days? Is that from the advent of AI? Because it's going to, I saw a couple of them that were so good. If the video wasn't 8 or 10 seconds long with no sound or spooky sound over it, you'd look at it and say, this is spectacular. This passes the muster. Again, this is on your cell phone. If you were to really investigate it, you'd want to have the raw footage, which you could then look at. And you're not going to get that with AI because it's already compressed, and it's not going to be high quality. But when you're looking at this on your phone, it does look very good, but it's never going to pass the muster once a guy like Marc gets a hold of it, and it's not native raw. It's not in any sort of, it's going to look Mickey Mouse as soon as you start to analyze
I'd like
it.
to ask both you guys a question regarding a new case. It's kind of died over the last week or so. I'm positive you know about the case from Peru with that thing that came out of the potato and it grew and he released it into the water and things. I got to say that the way it was cut and shot and things, some of that stuff, I'm not saying it's real, but some of it could easily pass untrained eyes for what the hell am I looking at, right? And I'm wondering what you guys, just in a general sense, think of that guy's footage, and in a broader sense, do you think that can fool a lot of people? That creature, that black creature.
Well, I'll just offer one little thing here. As someone who worked with the world's finest visual effects artist on the planet, Douglas Trumbull, for 10 years.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time talking to him and picking his brain about how he did certain effects and everything. And he would always say to me, it has to be, number one, it has to be scientifically plausible, number one, to be believable, even if it's distant science. And number two, it has to absolutely not look like shit. Okay. And then, pardon my French, Don.
That's all right. Rip it, baby.
It sounded English to me. I mean,
Just a hint of French.
Pardonne-moi, merde. Okay. But
Merde.
Merde, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. And so the thing that's interesting is that when we look at those footage like that, okay, it looks pretty darn good.
It does.
But there's tells, there's giveaways, and one of the first giveaways is who's publicizing it.
Okay? Nobody. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have to wonder, okay, is this a new guy on the block who wants some fame, wants 15 minutes? How's that working?
Click.
Yeah. And we have that going too, but not bad. I mean, it's a very nicely done fake.
Yeah, it was in the water. When it would move, the water would splash, it would do certain things, and I'm going, this took time. There's some effort here. Now, I'm not an AI guy. All I've done in AI is I've used it to take the vocals out of a song for a backing track or something, right? And it sucks still to this day. It's really not that good. But I'm looking at that going, that could fake a lot of people.
In my opinion, I think that specifically, I did see some of the footages where it was like a flashlight was moving around.
Yeah.
Right, and I've seen that technique in other AI videos, so I'm not sold on that. I do think the one where he put it in the water.
Yes.
I don't think that was it. I think what he had done is he attached some black whatever that material is. It could be a pom-pom from a
sure.
streamer on a kid's bike that's black. I think he attached it to a fish, a small fish. And so there's so much of it, it's covering the fish. And the fish is, of course, moving around, and it's thrashing around. And you're not seeing the fish because it's overwhelmed by whatever he hooked into it.
Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
So a lot of it could be practical mixed with AI. But I thought that what I saw when he quote released it in the water, that looked like a fish that he had attached maybe something to, like imagine a big lure if it didn't just have 3 little things hanging, but it had that thing, and it thrashed around a little bit, and then I'm like, that looks like a fish. To me, it looked like a fish.
Yeah.
Well, you're getting into an area where, this is where Marc deals with this a lot. I worked in film and video editing for over 35 years. And I can spot the difference between pixelation and film grain. I was trained in film first. But with video, you always rely a lot when you're looking for fake shit, because you'll see a pixelation difference between whatever the one object is, the shadow and or other stuff in the video. But how are you going to do this as we move forward, Marc?
Now, say it again. How are you going to do what?
How are you going to look for this shit now that we're getting beyond that? Because this stuff's getting to 4K quality. Like, how
And
are
it
you
will.
going to? How are you going to look for what is fake,
The
what is real,
telltales.
and what's AI?
Well, the thing is too that if someone produces something in 4K, they've got a lot more errors to conceal. Okay, if you do it in
The
1080p,
clarity.
then you don't have as many errors. In fact, that hides a lot of sins. And so the 4K realm is going to have its own development cycle, and people will do things in 4K, and you say, "Wow, it's so sharp and clear. What camera took this?" You know,
Right.
and then they're going to have to say, "Oh, well, I took this with my Blackmagic camera." Okay, what lens did you use? Oh, well, and then they're going to have to scramble because if the field doesn't match the focal length of the camera to your eye or whatever the
Right.
technical details, then you've got a big problem. You know, so a lot more research is going to have to be done by people that are going to fake stuff because they're going to have to answer these hard questions.
That's why I think they're going to go back to potato cam, because a lot of the stuff we see from the government's potato cam. So why not just potato cam your good stuff and bring it down where it kind of obscures a lot of the stuff?
Yeah, well, that's again, there's a lot of techniques used by filmmakers, hoaxers to do this, and they actually use the problems built into the cameras in a cell phone.
Right.
You know, a cell
Right.
phone doesn't take a single picture. When you take photos with a cell phone, it's stacking your images, and those stacks, okay, can be given away. You can see the stacking taking place, and you can see that it has taken place. So there's a ways to go before they can actually fool those of us who are doing this analysis daily. I mean, I'm not saying we can't be fooled, but I do like to be entertained. That's for sure. And if I see good AI, I'm like, hey, that's cool. But
The better it is promotional to what they're doing a lot of the time. These guys that
yes,
do that are actual visual effects guys trying to see what they can pull off and get some free promotion.
yeah,
So-
and they use a variety of techniques. Let's take the Jerusalem UFO. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Bright light comes down, wow, and all these people filmed it from different angles and everything. Wow. Well, I got that analysis hours after it occurred, not even maybe 100 minutes after it occurred. I got this case. I looked at it and I said, okay, I should see press releases all over the world about this object. There were none. Okay, red flag number 1. Red flag number 2. The people talking and yelling about what was going on, their vocal cues and the action taking place were out of sync.
Right.
In other words, something went shoom,
Very common.
then you're
Very.
whoa, you know, it's like it was off, you know, and that was red flag number 2. The next red flag was this thing came down over the Dome of the Rock, okay, and it was illuminating the area around it. Now, having done CG work for decades, I looked at this and I said, what's going on with that lighting? It's not right. I mean, if light's hitting one wall face, it's going to reflect onto another wall face that may not be in the light, but you're going to see that wall face get brighter too from incidental bounce lighting. So if they do enough ray tracing, they might be able to figure that out. But if they're lazy and just want to get it out there, then they're going to do what they did for the Jerusalem UFO. They're just going to light one face and not do a lot of ray tracing to figure out all the supplemental secondary and tertiary and quaternary reflections they're going to get, you know. And, you know, so, and the thing was, you know, those the quality of the video was interesting. I saw 2 more videos supposedly the same thing, one from a different vantage point, one up close. It's like, wow, they covered it all over the place. All 3 were different. All 3 showed different things, different frequencies, different times, you know, for the flashing. So I called it a hoax almost immediately, actually, probably within the first 2 hours of looking at this. I figured that's a total hoax. I knew that there wasn't going to be any news reports, and there weren't. And then we did a little more digging, and an Israeli reporter, okay, that I think that our organization, you know, MUFON, of course, knows, did some digging and discovered that everybody on the video, all the cameras, belonged to individuals that were just, what a coincidence. They were all taking the same film class. Wow. That's amazing. And that's since the deal. Okay. And now, but okay, so that's an engineered hoax. Okay. And another one that wasn't an engineered hoax, but was an actual thing that got legs as something different was remember the Norway spiral?
Yep.
Yeah.
And beautiful cloud. That happened just like you saw it. It was exactly what you saw. There was no CG in there, no AI. That was actually just like you saw it. Now, I watched it, and I watched it very carefully, and I noticed where it was. I noticed how it was spiraling. I saw the spiral moving outward. Okay, at least that's what you thought you were looking at. And then I said, I'll bet you there's some other angles of this, and I'll bet you it's not going to be a spiral. I bet you it's going to be a corkscrew going through the sky. And more footage showed up 2 days later of it as a corkscrew, but I had already figured out that it was a failed rocket launch. And that we were looking at leaking fuel, and it was glistening in the sunlight because at altitude, you still have sun up there. Okay?
You're such a party pooper, Mark.
I know.
Well, guys, we got less than 30 seconds. So when we come back from the top of the hour break, I want to slide into 3i Atlas. I want to talk about that for a while. I've seen a tremendous amount of chatter.
Oh, yes.
AI deepfake seems like it's all over that.
It's turning around, Mark. It's coming back.
And
Mark, you're so excited about this.
That's what we're going to do. Okay, gang, this is Dark Matters Radio, heard exclusively on KGRAdb. Tonight, we have both Mr. Stepen Bradford and Mr. Marc Dantonio, and of course, Gerry, Mark, and myself. We'll be back after these words. Stick around.
Hold on to your seats, Cosmic Explorers. KGRA Digital Broadcasting, the unrivaled #1 source for raw, uncensored paranormal and UFO talk radio, has just unleashed a sizzling online merch store. Stay cosmic on the move with accessories, rugged phone cases, vibrant yoga mats, and notebooks perfect for jotting down UFO sightings. Ignite your obsession with the unexplained through bold, exclusive gear that demands attention. Kicking off with the Supernova, the store launches 2 heart-pounding collections, KGRA Digital Broadcasting and Bishop James Long. Every item you grab helps power the network and its groundbreaking shows. Stand with the truth seekers. Act fast, score your stellar swag, and join the uprising today.
From Iraq and Afghanistan, our brave warriors are coming home, wounded. Some with wounds you can see, some with wounds you can't see. Wounded Warrior Project was created to support our men and women coming off the battlefield. Please help carry these warriors the rest of the way home. Get involved at woundedwarriorproject.org.
MUFON is the voice of thousands of like-minded people who want to see change. We speak up against UFO secrecy. We engage governments and agencies around the world on the topic. We share information with the public through our journal, website, newsletter, social media, and even our own TV channel. When you join MUFON, you add your voice to the cause. Few things are more important in our time than understanding the UFO question. Join MUFON. Find your friends.
And we are back from break. And now, because I know Marc Dantonio was so pleased to want to talk about this, let us discuss Three-Eye Atlas.
Absolutely.
Is it real or is it Memorex?
Oh, it's a total UFO. It's actually heading for the Earth.
Or an ET craft carrying invasion troops. I don't know.
It's got both invasion troops, and it's also, it's actually, if you saw that Star Trek episode, The Doomsday Machine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's actually what it looks like because the internet told me so.
A big dog turd.
No, it was a bugle, like one of those crackers from the.
I thought it was a big dog turd.
Yeah, it was a big bugle turd, I guess, if you call it. Well, anyway, yeah. So I've been following Three-Eye Atlas, of course, since I photographed it. Okay, and I photographed
that
it.
Photograph is what, about 1 pixel, Mark?
A few more than that, but it's small. It was very tiny, and it was all the way out into just about Jupiter at that point. And I'm sorry, not Jupiter. It was out well past Mars at that point, but about as far away as Jupiter is.
Is this the one that you brought a photo of?
Yeah, I have a photo of it. I think you might have seen it.
Can you add it?
Yeah.
That's not it. That's not it.
Good job, Bill.
That's a comet in another nebula that I took a photograph of the other night. A comet passing in front of a distant nebula. But
I saw it on Facebook. I can pull it up.
It's out there. Yeah, it's in my it's pinned in my wall. But it has a red square, and in there is a tiny dash, and that tiny dash is Three-Eye Atlas when it was out as far as Jupiter is. Now that doesn't mean it saw Jupiter. It's going to see Jupiter on the way out, because on the way out it's going to go and cross all the way back out to Jupiter's orbit again, but Jupiter will be kind of near there. It's still millions and millions of miles from all of these places. It passed Mars already, millions of miles away. Okay, it's going to pass Venus millions of miles away, like 18 million miles from Mars. I think 60 million miles from Venus. Okay, keep in mind our distance from the sun is 93 million miles. And from Earth, it's going to be so close, it's going to be a whopping 170 million miles away from our planet when it passes that close. So obviously we have nothing to worry about from it. And the question is it alien? Now, all this stuff started because, Avi Loeb, who is a friend of mine. I know Avi. Okay, that's the James Webb photograph right there that took it. That's false color. James Webb only sees in the infrared. But the other photo in that article I wrote is the black one with the red square in it, and that's the one that actually has that in there. That one there. Yeah. So now, obviously in StreamYard you can't enlarge this. There is. I have another
enhance.
Huh?
Enhance.
Yeah. You can't use AI to enhance this. But inside that red square is a tiny little dash, which you can't see like this. I don't think. Maybe you can on larger resolutions. But anyway, this is interesting because this there it is. Now you can see it. That little tiny thing right there is Three-Eye Atlas. Now, why does it look like a dash? Well, for the same reason that they took a picture with the Perseverance rover and they saw this dash in the sky and said, oh, look, it's a cylinder. No, it's a time exposure. That's what this is. This is in the Sagittarius Milky Way right now. So this is a very dense region of our galaxy. And I had to use a filter to knock out most of that density of background stars so you can actually see something. And this was something that was not very obvious. And to show it, we had to, I had to use a special filter. And when I did, we saw that green dot is just a pixel that doesn't belong there. Anyway, you'll notice there's no other dashes in the photograph. That's the only one. So there it is, sitting out there at the distance of Jupiter's orbit from us. And that was back on August 8th, I believe. And it's now you see articles now, of course. Oh no, NASA has gone dark on 3i Atlas. Oh no, why? Because it's in the daytime sky, you morons. It's not visible at night right now. It sets long, long before you can look at it with your telescope. It sets while the sun is still just setting, so it's setting too. So because the sun moves eastward, and it's in a constellation that the sun's moving toward. So the closer it gets, the more it's going to be in the daytime sky, and then when it passes it, it'll be in the early morning sky. So it'll rise. It'll be up just before the sunrise. Okay, and that's the kind of thing that they turn into an internet conspiracy and say, oh, this thing is doing all kinds of things, and NASA won't admit it. NASA, and why do they make NASA the final word? Don't they realize that NASA doesn't have the final word on the release of data? I guess they don't know that. They think NASA does everything. NASA is just the only government agency they can think of that can conspire to do evil things. But the fact is, we've got Jet Propulsion Laboratory. We've got the European Southern Observatory. We've got Malin Space Science Systems. We got all these people all over the world that are doing this stuff that are not beholden to NASA. Okay, they work with NASA. All right, but they don't keep secrets from us because NASA says don't tell anybody. They don't do that. They just don't do that. So
I think Mr. Hoagland would say different, but that's for another show.
Yeah, okay. Well, Richard and I do have a difference of opinion. We've talked about it a couple times.
Yeah.
Little difference.
Hey,
I mean,
this
the face on Mars
here,
is not a. What's that?
This photo here is shown everywhere. What exactly is this, Mark?
Okay, that is a photo where you see all the rainbow colors. Okay,
yeah,
those rainbow colors do not denote the object. That just happens to be the filter that they're using shows it as sort of a rainbow. Okay, and those colors, if you think about a little more about what we do, when we see light coming from anything, we can examine its light, and the light tells us the composition. Okay, so we can tell what compounds, what chemicals, what elements, atoms basically are in these objects that we're seeing. Nickel. And that's what those photos tend to show. That's a working photo, a work photo for some research. It's not actually a photo that they meant to release to say, look, here it is, because that's not what it is. This is just a photo that got released of, a work in progress. And, unfortunately, they release these things without saying anything, and next thing you know, it gets legs and people make it into whatever they want it to be, whatever their conspiracy of the day is. Now, I'm not saying that there's been no conspiracies. There certainly have. Okay. There certainly have. I know that. But in this case with 3A Atlas, it's actually more and more we see it. It looks more and more just like a strange comet that we haven't seen before. Why haven't we seen it before? Well, it's interstellar, meaning it came from outside of our solar system. And how do we know that? Because it's on a particular path called a hyperbolic trajectory, which means that it's going to go zipping by the sun and be bent by the sun's gravity ever so slightly as it moves through. And by its speed, it has more speed coming into our solar system than a comet in the comet cloud that slowly orbits the sun would get by just lazily falling into the sun over time through some type of disturbance by a passing star or something. So it's moving faster than a comet object would in the outer solar system. So those two criteria tell us it's coming from a long distance. It's interstellar. The other thing is, if you look, this is our solar system. It's on a 62-degree angle relative to the galactic plane. Okay, and people are saying, and you're hearing, that it's coming in along the plane of our solar system. Yes, it's true, but they're thinking in the wrong set of dimensions, because it's like this. Okay, this works this way too. And so it's cutting across from the plane of the galaxy, which is all out here. So it's cutting right across the plane of our solar system, because it's coming in on the plane of our solar system, not from higher up or from other directions that don't correlate to the plane of our galaxy.
Do your wrists and arms have their own agents, by the way?
As a matter of fact, this one does. This one's working on that.
Okay.
Hand model like George.
It's not perfect. See, it's not perfect. But the fact of the matter is, that plane of our galaxy and our solar system tilt means that this object can cut across the plane of our solar system just as it is. But it's coming from an area that's densely populated with dust, gas, and other materials out there, compounds out in the cold of space where life begins in the dark.
Well, one big question I have, Mark, and I know you've got to be up on this. The one thing that they found, one of the things they found so odd about 3i Atlas is the nickel content. The nickel, they've detected the nickel, but no iron. Now, everything we know here on our planet, meteorites, asteroids, whatever that come in, if they have nickel and iron, they seem to go together. This thing doesn't seem to have that. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, and the thing is, the problem with the iron, the speculation has been that obviously when you see nickel, you expect to see iron. They're closely related in the periodic table, right? And so one of the things that indicates it's sort of an unusual composition for this comet, right? And I can understand that. But there was a very high, what they call a nickel to iron ratio. Okay, there was some iron, but it was a lower number. So when you say no iron, that's not true. It was a lower ratio of iron to nickel.
How low?
I don't know the exact number, but there's a paper out now that's purporting to say that one of the problems we're seeing is probably the result of certain compounds in the comet that are masking iron. And one of them could be this carbonyl sulfide, which is not CO2, that's carbon dioxide, but carbonyl sulfide is COS. Sulfur has a sulfur in there. And maybe carbonyl sulfide is somehow masking the iron. That's a theory that's out there right now. And there's also a paper that just came out stating, and I haven't even read this yet, it just came out stating that the mystery of the iron in 3i Atlas may actually be solved because they're offering this hypothesis, and it may be a masking, a masking mechanism that's occurring in the comet. But it's definitely a very different composition than what we've seen. But then again, it's coming in on the plane of our galaxy where all the stuff is. This stuff is all throughout our whole galaxy's disk. Dark dust. What's the dust made of? Carbon atoms, compounds, formaldehyde, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, ice, water ice. Okay, and as your comet's going through that, it's going to acquire stuff. And a lot of it's going to come to the comet, even though the
real toxic soup, huh?
Very toxic soup, including cyanogen, which is why it's green now. So they said, oh, no cyanogen is showing up. Well, actually it is. And so this thing is now showing us cyanogen. And cyanogen is a carbon atom bonded to a nitrogen atom, okay, and then another one, carbon and nitrogen. And that pairing, that double pairing is cyanogen. And so we're seeing that it emits a green light when struck by the light from the sun. And so we're watching this stuff happen all the time on the comet's surface now. And that photo that was shown before shows cyanogen in Comet Swan, which I photographed underneath. Exactly. That's the pillars of creation, by the way, up at the top. You can kind of see under the cluster of stars, that dark area there. You can look carefully. You can see those are actually the pillars of creation that Hubble managed to image. They were just beautiful. And Comet Swan, you can see the tail moving a little bit. You can see it just to the left of the comet is the tail. And the comet's actually moving, toward the left and up. So you'll say the comet's tail is going the wrong way. Well, those are perspective illusions, all right, because space is three-dimensional, all right? And so, but it's neat, okay? So that green, that very vibrant green is exactly how it really looks. And that's because of all the carbon compounds on that comet's surface and in the atmosphere to millions of miles around that nucleus. That nucleus of the comet Swan can be very, very small, just a few kilometers in size. But that green glow is atoms that have been dislodged and ionized by the energy of the sun, and they emit a beautiful green light. And that's something that's just stunning about comets, that most of them are green. See? So,
let's talk about another claim. The claim coming from, it could have been Loeb, it could have been, smarter people on the internet, but they were saying something this big, 33 billion tons, impossible for there to be that kind of debris out there to have something this big come out of nowhere.
Well, it depends on what sourced it, okay? First of all, there's a lot of reasons why a extraterrestrial interloper like this could be in our solar system. It doesn't have to have just formed out there that big, okay? But it could be, for instance, a case where there was this object that was forming in a star system far away, and in its early formation, it interacted with one of the larger planets that was forming there, perhaps, and got whipped out of the system and became some rogue object. Now, we see rogue objects in the constellation of Orion. We've identified or looked at what could possibly be rogue planets, whole planets just floating without stars. Okay, that's pretty cool. And so this could be a rogue object. And as it went through interstellar space, it may have obtained material. Now, it didn't have to be a planet, but it could have been an asteroid of some size.
Right, that's what they've
maybe
been saying.
A 20-mile diameter asteroid or 30-mile diameter asteroid. And as it went through space, it started acquiring stuff, including potentially this, CO2 ice. There was a lot. And the other thing, Don, that you didn't mention, which I know, is that this thing had a lot of carbon dioxide emission coming off, a lot of carbon dioxide gas and vapor. Now, that implies that it had a lot of carbon dioxide ice, dry ice, what we call dry ice on Earth. Okay. And that means that it would have had to have either made it or passed through carbon dioxide, and in the deep cold of space, it acquired it like an icy mantle. It's possible that it went through a molecular cloud that had, in addition to other things, carbon dioxide. And that's a compound that can exist in space. There's no reason it can't. And so it could sit down onto the surface of the comet, and many, many, many molecules can form a little tiny piece of ice. And over billions of years, you might get a fairly thick mantle of carbon dioxide ice. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that the age of this thing is another very important factor. This thing could be 7 billion years old. Now, that's almost twice the age of our solar system. So when it first started on its journey, our sun was still several, billion years from formation. So a lot happened in space during that time.
Well, one thing I do know about space.
It's vast. It's big.
Nobody can hear you scream in space.
In my ears. Steven has a couple of questions. Go!
Exactly. So I'm curious to know, is it possible if the underlying source material was technological in nature? Let's assume it was a distant probe that was sent out into space, how many billions of years ago. By this point that it reaches us, would it be possible to infer that it's going to have all this other prosaic things on top of it, the rocks and the gas? So like it foundationally, could this be something anomalous, which over time, if it's just a probe that's just, well constructed or whatever, is traveling, and it's now on the surface because it's been out there a billion years, is going to look nothing. It's going to look like an old rock, but its size and trajectory is something a little bit more anomalous. So until you break through all of that regolith that it's sort of captured during this long flight, is it going to still be a rock underneath all of it, or is it something else? And I guess my second question is I'm not obviously an astrophysicist guy. I don't know much about comets, but why is it, your prosaic, sort of response makes total sense to me. But why is it that somebody of Avi Loeb's academic credentials over at Harvard is so emphatic about this being anomalous, when you and others, not just you, other people with similar academic backgrounds as him, think it's prosaic, yet he is so emphatic that it is just absolutely anomalous. We've never seen anything this big. Nothing like this has ever come through. It's on a trajectory that's, whatever. It just sounds like it seems like it's shocking that one guy is kind of well versed as he is out here on left field, like just so determined to make this point, whereas it seems like everyone else is just like, yeah, it's just a big rock. So is it just because he's sort of inundated with the field and the topic and it's sort of clouding his interpretation of it, or is something really anomalous about it that I don't know?
Well, I put on my astronomer glasses to give you an official answer. The truth is, I worked with Avi a few times, okay, and he's very open to possibilities. And of the things you mentioned, one of the more important things that he has stated is important. Now, he was also looking for round spherules on the bottom of the ocean, okay, which turned out to be of natural origin, most likely, okay, but still.
But you're not sure.
Yeah, they're not sure yet, but I mean, more than likely.
Well, we're not dealing in absolutes here. So.
Correct. But one of the things that he said was, this is one that resonated with me. Now, do I think to answer your first question, is it possible that it's a piece of old technology that's now just, all covered up with material and stuff? Interesting possibility. Would make a great science fiction novel. But I think maybe it is possible. There's no reason it can't be. But the fact is, if it was something that was a technological object, for it to be outgassing that much CO2, that much nickel to iron ratio, and cyanogen, it has almost too much material to have been artificially created. And so Avi's own argument about it, there's not enough material out there to create the stuff that we're seeing on it. Well, if it was artificial, that would be true. But so the fact that it does have all this stuff coming off it actually works against that idea, unfortunately. But I will say this, okay. He is sort of a new type of astrophysicist. He has an open mind. All right. He's not fettered by academia, and he's willing to go out on a limb. He didn't say this is alien. That's what the press has made this into.
Right.
He says we can't ignore the possibility.
Qualities.
We can't ignore the possibility. Among them, look at the trajectory. There's in terms of a chance encounter with 3 of our major planets in our solar system. That's a 0.005% chance. That's a small number. And,
yeah, but what's that math based on? Is it based on
all the possible trajectories it could have come from?
Well, I barely know basic math. So if you say that, then, and we know that stuff like this has come through maybe thousands of things in the past, but we could never see them, right? It seems to me when you're using math like that, I don't understand. Is it just based on that object, or do we take into account that maybe thousands of things have come through on that plane before and we just didn't see them?
Well, it's actually based on the fact that this object is visiting 3 out of our 9 planets, and yes, Pluto's a planet. I don't want to hear any crap.
Yeah, you won't get it from here. It's a planet.
It is a planet. I knew Clyde Tombaugh. You knew that. He found Pluto.
Yep.
Well, bottom line is this, okay? It went by Mars first. It's going to go by Venus and then go by Jupiter on the way out, okay?
So Neil deGrasse.
Don, your eloquence astonishes me.
But what is a woman, Neil?
We're going to go down that path.
No, we're not. No.
Oh, boy. A birthing person. Okay, so the thing to me is because it's going by these 3 major planets, you have to look at the chances. Now, it means that the planets orbiting, as we look at it from what we'll call the top, we look down the solar system, they're orbiting counterclockwise, all of them, okay, as they go around, okay? The fact that all those planets are going to be kind of in that spot where the comet's going to pass right at that point, okay, that is a 0.005% chance. It looks to be like it's almost an engineered path, an engineered trajectory. However, we have to keep in mind that if this thing was out there this long, all right, we would expect to see some deviation in this.
Right, degrading of the path and all that.
Yes, you would. Maybe it was supposed to come to Earth too. Who knows? Okay.
Right.
But the other thing too to keep in mind is that this thing didn't show what we call non-gravitational acceleration. Okay. Now, this NGA stuff means that when a comet comes into our solar system from the Oort cloud, the cloud of cometary objects around our solar system, or the Oort belt farther out, when it comes in from out there, as it comes in, the sun heats the surface and jets of gas come out that were trapped, and those jets act like little tiny jets. And the comet, when it comes through, doesn't go, it goes.
But this one isn't doing that.
Right, and that implies that it's more massive than we thought.
Right.
And more massive means instead of 4 kilometers across, maybe it's 20 kilometers across or 30 kilometers across the nucleus. And that's actually consistent with what my, I guess you call it a theory, is, and that is that this was an object kicked out of a previous star system somewhere else, made a long journey here, and in the process, it was an asteroid of substantial size. It gained a lot of material on its surface, which, of course, in the depths of space, became ices, okay, and regolith and soils. And the iron compounds, that's still a mystery, but I think that this paper explains where it may be and whatever might be masking it. So I'm going to read that paper probably later today. I will be streaming the observatories live later too, by the way.
Well, let's talk about mass and weight real quick.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh yeah, sure,
absolutely.
man. Go.
As a statistician, knowing, I've heard my entire life like how ominous and dangerous the depths of space is, and how many asteroid belts there are, and this thing has been traveling for X amount of billions of years. Is there a probabilistic, like, what's the chances that something that large could even stay intact unless it was something anomalous to make it this long in space and still be intact and not just be in a billion little pieces in space? Because, right, space is filled, every star has a planet and blah, blah, and exploded planets and black holes and all, but yet this thing is just somehow migrated through this, landmine of danger to make it all the way to us in billions of years. That in itself, to me, seems statistically improbable based on what little I know about the dangers of space and the asteroids and the numerous planets and the gravities that are out there that should have sucked it and its, and discharged it elsewhere. The fact that it's just been able to just chill out and come across and not really experience much, it just gets bigger, which means it would seem to me the bigger it gets with regolith, the larger the likelihood is it's going to collide with something and disintegrate. So I'm just confused how something, given the vastness and complexity of space, could even go this far for this long.
All right, yeah, that's probably the best question of the night, Stephen. I'll tell you why. Good job, because that actually points out one of the problems that people have when they think about space. And the fact is, space is immense. I won't quote Douglas Adams from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but it's huge.
Remember to bring your towel.
But the thing that's important to understand here is that there's a lot of space between stuff, nothingness. And I'll tell you why. When you look at Saturn's rings, you can't imagine if you went to Saturn's rings that you could fly through the rings without hitting something, right? Because
right.
They all
not to interrupt you, but I look at our moon and it's just destroyed with impacts. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. That But that was in our early formation. The moon doesn't have erosion. The Earth does.
Yeah, but this thing predates us, so it's.
We've been hit. Well, the moon came slightly after we formed, and we got hit by.
But I mean the atlas.
Oh, right.
But yet, on one of the Apollo missions, astronauts brought back a rock from the moon that was approximately 5+ billion years old.
Okay, that's fair, because it could have been part of a meteorite that hit that's older than the moon.
Well, my point was that's older. The rock is older than the solar system.
Yeah. And that could be, because if it was an interstellar object that came in
outside,
just like what we're seeing right now.
I do want to answer his question, because that's actually a very, very good question. We put the Cassini orbiter orbited Saturn very successfully, and we got the best images of Saturn we've ever had. We got a probe that the Cassini orbiter dropped onto Titan, the largest moon, which is actually larger than the planet Mercury. All right, it'd be a planet in its own right if it wasn't orbiting Saturn, and we took that probe twice, and sent it right through the rings, and it never encountered a single particle either time.
How big was that probe versus IA Atlas?
Oh, the probe was smaller, obviously, but the fact is, 3i Atlas being bigger can actually handle such things easier. It would probably attach itself to whatever hit it. Okay, there's a thing that happens in space. It's a process that's sort of like cold welding. Okay, if you put something next to, like, two icy bodies hit each other, they bounce off each other. The first thing that they do, they don't bounce off, they hit, and what happens immediately is that the surface ices on both melt for a moment, but then in space, that heat is lost almost immediately, and they freeze together and form a binary object. Okay, that's why when the Event Horizon Pluto probe went further out into the Kuiper Belt and saw Ultima Thule, it was two pancake-sized objects that had been welded at their centers. They were probably orbiting and probably grazed each other at one point and then froze that way, where they'll stay to the end of time. And as such, unless struck by something else, will not come apart. So because there's great distance between things in space, it's not unlikely that this object didn't miss anything larger. It's factually very likely. In fact, the only time it might actually hit something larger is if it entered a star system like ours. But on the way through all these dust clouds, it's acquired mass little by little. It's large enough so that it didn't get destroyed by particles of dust. All right. I mean, a small little particle of dust might be destroyed by other particles of dust.
But aren't there other planets out there and celestial bodies with their own gravity that's going to just make it so its trajectory is not just so straight with such intent? Like, isn't it? I mean, I just can't imagine that this thing the size of Manhattan is the biggest, baddest thing for 2 billion years that can travel in a straight line and not just be totally obliterated at some point.
No, it's just not hitting anything. You know, they like, again, another example. You know about our asteroid belt. You mentioned it earlier.
Right.
Okay, if you add up all the rocks in our asteroid belt and just made a planet out of them, you know how big that planet would be? 1/4 the size of the moon.
Really?
Yeah. There's not a lot of stuff there. It's just a very small and
we're a needle in the haystack when it comes to where this thing has traveled over 2 billion years. I guess my point is in the billions of years, like, we went from a sponge to making sentient life with AI, and we can put rovers on Mars in that amount of time. And it's like this thing somehow just managed in the same amount of, billions of years to just kind of chug along and not really experience any hardships that we know of. It just, to me, statistically, that in itself seems anomalous, but I do understand the vastness of space. So it is possible that it can travel
to flip it around. How come we haven't been hit more times?
But we have.
No, I mean, hit in a very, very bad way, right?
We have.
My argument would be because the large objects just eventually over time just get whittled away to nothing because
Younger Dryas is a perfect example.
Just going to mention the Younger Dryas event.
Right. Well, okay. if 3I was to hit us, would it be smaller or bigger than Dryas?
I think it's the one that would kill the dinosaurs is what I read.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking if it's a 30-mile size, it would be an extinction level event, depending on how it hit us. Okay. If it grazed us and missed us, it'd be damaging to whoever was underneath it because the atmosphere would be heated up immensely as it came through, and everything below it would be set ablaze and would continue on out into space. That's the best possible outcome if it's going to have to hit us.
Right.
But it would also affect things for a long time. That would still raise a dust pall that might block the sun in that region for a period of time. It doesn't.
Well, speaking of a potential planetary extinction event, Apophis is supposed to come very, very close to Earth in 2029, I believe.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah, I think Apophis.
Well, we have one that's going to be here in 2 days. That's going to be 20 million miles away and not 170 million miles away. And hardly anybody talks about it.
Well, the moon, for God's sake, is 250,000 miles out there. 20 million miles, that's pretty damn far.
Yeah.
Well,
here's the thing, though. You have to keep in mind, too, that the Sentry list that is maintained through all the agencies that study, near Earth objects, NEOs, does have a lot of people on staff that calculate orbits, recalculate orbits, and refine details. So anything that we see, 3I Atlas was on our Sentry list most likely when it first came into the light of the first telescopes, and then it was taken off when they calculated its orbit as a hyperbolic orbit that was going to take it to where we now know it's going to go. Right. But all of those things aside, the moon's 240,000 miles away, 236,000 miles away, depending on, it's not quite a circular orbit around the Earth. But the bottom line is that Apophis is actually going to be just about 20,000 miles from Earth. Now, that's a refined approximation. So, and the thing is, it looks like Apophis won't be a threat for at least the next 100 years. And this time around, it's going to pass roughly 20,000 miles away. Now, keep in mind, if we were to train our Sky Tour live stream telescopes on this thing and watch it live, it's going to move really fast in the sky. We're going to see it moving really, really fast because it's going to be here and gone in no time when it's 20,000 miles away. Okay. Now, that's pretty big. It's literally, if you unroll the Earth into one flat sheet, it's less than that distance. All right. But
wait, we're not a flat sheet.
Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Just kidding.
I'm sorry.
I know it's a slow Earth garbage. I thought
that was good. Kidding. I like that. No, he's good. He's good. I like this. Yeah, no, it's true. So, and the truth is, for what we're gonna do with Apophis, it's not going to be very close to us. And because, though, you got to keep in mind that because it's going to be coming this close to Earth, 20,000 miles away, it's going to be, first of all, it's going to be a once in a millennium type crossing that the Earth's going to see. Okay. And it's also going to be something where Earth's own gravity will actually work on Apophis and change Apophis's trajectory because it's going to be coming closer to Earth. All right. So we have all that, but it is 2029, as Don said, but it is going to be a flyby, not a fly into.
We hope.
I guess I should reposition what I was trying to say about us being hit. I meant in 4 billion years or whatever, we haven't been hit that often. Meaning
we have
the amount of stuff in space is so far out that if it was closer, we'd be hit more often, right?
I know where you're going with that, but I prefer to think of it this way. First of all, the answer is sort of yes, sort of no. And I'll give you the reason why. Okay. First of all, we have been hit a lot. Okay. We have been hit hundreds of thousands of times, sometimes to the point of being reduced to a magma ocean again, or, and then cooling again. If you look at the moon bears the scars of what we call the early bombardment era. That was several billion years ago when that all happened. So those craters are billions of years old on the moon, except for the ones that are recent. You may recall that we were doing a live stream of the moon during a solar or lunar eclipse, and the moon was blood red. And all of a sudden, we all saw this white flash, boom, on the moon. We actually caught a meteor hitting the moon, which was really cool. We're only one of 5 that caught that in the whole world. So that kind of put us on the map, right? So now you think about those things. You think, wow, how many times does the moon get hit? All the time. All the time. We get many tons a year of meteorites hitting our planet a year. All right. So we're always getting hit. Now, as far as the larger items, the earlier bombardment area was when the solar system had not yet settled down to its present phase, its present, let's say, syncopated routine, okay, where we didn't have the resonances, what they're called, of the planets moving around, the moon's moving around planets and the planets moving around the sun. There's a resonance to that. That's all in place now. So the interlopers now that can hurt us are these near-Earth objects that come in from out there with these highly elliptical orbits that might cross our path. We've had Earth-crossing asteroids before. Earth orbit crossing asteroids. So we have an orbit like this.
Oh, Mr. Science, I've got a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Bobby. Bobby up there in the back. What would you like to ask?
Mr. Science, one thing that has always amazed me, every time we have people going down to the Antarctic, they are invariably picking up meteorites from atop the ice fields. Now, we all know, or at least we should, that when those meteors come in, they're going pretty fast. Why are they on top of the ice and not buried within the ice? And I'm serious about this.
I know. Does anyone else in the class want to try and answer that? Because I can answer it if
Nope.
you don't.
I'll leave it to you, Mr. Science.
It's very simple. When you have an object enter the atmosphere, if it's of a sufficient mass, okay, it can make it to the ground and make a crater. Think Arizona meteorite crater, right? Okay. Tens of thousands of years ago, that hit. I got a piece of it over here, actually. Shh, don't tell anybody. Well, the thing is, when it comes to smaller objects, they come into the atmosphere. They're bigger objects when they enter. Then they break up and they form smaller objects and they start to cool. And they're coming in on an orbit or trajectory. And then that trajectory stops and it starts just falling vertically. Now it's just a small rock falling vertically. And it can only reach a certain speed, a terminal velocity.
Turns into shrap. Yeah, it turns into shrap and just... Yeah,
it just comes down to the ground. Now, it doesn't drift down like feathers, of course, unless it's as light as a feather. But if it's a pebble this large, it's not going to hit the ground with the force of a bullet. All right? It's going to hit the ground, and if it hit you on the head, you go, ow! I say, who hit me? Just like the myth about a penny going into the sidewalk if you drop it from the Empire State Building. Yep. Totally untrue. I've done it. No one died. I'm just kidding. Okay.
As far as you know.
On a live show.
I think that guy inserted the penny in his brain. It wasn't me. No. No. So that's part of the mythos, right? So something has a terminal velocity in air, and you do. Yours is 180 miles an hour. With a wingsuit, you can drop that down to like 90 or whatever. But you're still dead if you hit without a parachute. The whole 9 yards. Well, anyway, an object that's small like that will also have some wind resistance, and that wind resistance means it'll fall at a certain rate of fixed speed after a certain point. And that fixed speed allows them to just drop onto the hard ice fields in Antarctica. And the reason they're always found in Antarctica is because the ice fields tend to be white and the meteors tend to be dark. So they stand out like a sore thumb. If you see any rock anywhere around you in those ice fields, it was deposited there.
Well, one of the very, very most famous of those was the one that was believed to have come, and I guess chemically it was proven it came from Mars.
The one with the worms.
It had goop in it.
Well, I think that it had these striations in it, and those striations were thought to be some type of maybe bacteria. Some of that has been dismissed as factually not true. Some of that has been confirmed. The parts that have been dismissed, I think, are the goop, and the parts that have been confirmed are that it had these striations that they thought initially could be bacteria fossils, okay, but possibly later found to be just a natural process that occurred.
Well, that's what they
Where
want
can
us to
we
believe.
find
Oh, there we go.
these
Yeah, that's what
meteors
they want us to
with
believe.
their
Stuff.
delicious-
Don, that's our Decker.
Mark, I have one more question, and then I know we're getting towards the end here, and I appreciate it because it's not every day that we get to speak to somebody that has the expertise with this subject.
Well, I guess
so. We all sit here and speculate without with any real guidance. So this has been a very enlightening conversation. As 3A Atlas begins to get closer, I know it's going to hit a point where it's going to be the closest that it can be. Are we going to be ever at a position where we can get enough data or the photograph or a picture that's not just a white dot to really sort of substantiate one side or the other? Or is this thing going to come and go with both sides, A, saying it's anomalous and B, saying it's prosaic? Is it
like a more back in 2017?
Is it ever going to get like where we can look at it and be like, shoot, it's actually pretty anomalous, or it's just pretty prosaic, or is it just going to be a mystery?
See, one of the things that I thought about and has come up is that they can retask certain orbiting platforms to look at it.
Correct.
Now, they can't look at it while it's in the daytime sky. Okay, but orbiting platforms can. All right, and unless it's directly behind the sun.
What about like a neutral density filter? We don't have those on our like to shoot in daylight. We don't have.
Well, you can't see a star during the daylight. The only exception will be if Betelgeuse goes supernova. You'll see that star in the daytime.
You can see the moon.
That's correct. Large angular diameter, close to us.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the reason. But you can't see stars. You can see Venus.
Yes.
I've shown people Venus in the daytime sky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which is kind of cool. But once you take your eyes off it, you can't find it again. It takes you a while to find it again. All right. But again, large angular diameter and brightness. Okay. Yeah, but no. When 3A Atlas emerges again into our nighttime sky, we'll probably be able to look at it with ground-based systems. Yes. Orbital platforms can probably look at it as well. The Hubble could take some images of it as well. And when it gets closer, when it's at our closest approach to the Earth, I think the Hubble may be able to snap a photo of it.
One other question. And now, is it on standby, ready to do this, or is it going to fly by and they're like, "Oh shucks, we never thought about turning Hubble"?
Oh, trust me, in the science community, a lot of people are screaming, redirect ExoMars at Mars. Redirect. They use the Perseverance rover and that dash they caught in the sky.
That's just a byproduct of it moving. It's not a cylinder.
Of course, you're right. It's a time
exposure.
exposure.
It's a long exposure.
But it wasn't even 3A Atlas. It was Phobos. It was one of Mars moons. They didn't even catch it. So,
but Mark, the government shut down, so they can't do anything. Come on.
Well, that's true, and luckily for us, 3I Atlas
a lot of other governments
observed right now.
Hey, I do want to get this one thing past you before this is done. With the mass, the weight, the mass of 3I at 33 billion tons, supposedly. They have the 2025 R2, and they don't have a mass for that. So quickly tell me, how do they get a mass of 3I, and how do they not get a mass of 2025 R2?
Oh, Comet Swan?
Yeah, because I've been looking, and they said we do not have a mass for that yet.
In all likelihood, of course. Let's talk about how they get the mass. The mass is obtained by looking at the orbit and looking at how the gravitational acceleration of the sun is causing it to move, and that gives us an idea. We can get its speed by looking at the light, and the light will have certain lines in it that are spectral lines that are shifted toward the blue end if something's moving toward us and shift it toward the red if it's moving away. So as this comet's coming closer, any emission lines that are in that comet will be shifted a little toward the blue, and that will tell us how exactly fast that particular component of the velocity toward us is moving. If it's moving at an angle like this, there is a component toward us that's maybe like that. If you take that from here to here, right, and you make a little triangle, you get a tiny little component of the velocity. That's what you'll get. You're not going to get this speed directly. You get this speed, the amount coming toward you. Now, all that said, sorry, that was a little rabbit hole. But the point being, they'll get the speed of the object moving toward us, and they'll also get its orbit. And by noticing the object's speed at the distance it's at, they can calculate what mass it has to be to have a speed of that much at that distance. They can also say, well, it's getting these outbursts. It's having these jets on its surface, just like in the Rosetta mission, Comet Churyumov-Gerasimenko, which was that kidney peanut-shaped comet. Okay, they landed the Philae lander on that, if you remember, and we saw all kinds of jets coming off that, and that was propelling the comet, making it spin and rotate, all kinds of things. Because again, there's nothing affecting it other than its own jets and the sun's gravity, okay, and the pull of Jupiter and all the other planets. When all that stuff's added up, okay, based on how much it actually moves, based on what we know Jupiter should do to it, Uranus, Neptune, all the way down to Pluto even, we can calculate a mass of this thing based on how it's moving. There are models that can predict from its location in the solar system, distance from all the planets, what's the gravity from all the planets affecting it, how much should that thing be moving, or here's how much it's moving. If we fit a curve to that, we can find a mass from that curve. And that's kind of what we did with this thing. And that's what Avi did, actually, by looking at the fact that it didn't have this gravitational acceleration. Comet Swan, same thing should happen. I don't know why there's no mass for Comet Swan. I guess it wasn't interstellar. I mean, interstellar comets seem to get priority. If you recall,
guys, we're down to under 2 minutes, and before we gotta end this show, I want to go to Stepen, because I wanted to give him the opportunity to, if I'm not mistaken, Stepen, your new documentary on Parkinson's disease, is that correct?
Yeah, it's a far departure from my UFO documentary on Norio Hayakawa. But yes, I just finished my first feature-length documentary, which is on Parkinson's disease. The title of it is called On Firm Ground. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to onfirmgroundfilm.com, onfirmgroundfilm.com, or you can follow my media company at weekendersmedia.com. Weekenders, because we go out every weekend and try to film documentaries. But I appreciate that. It's a great cause. We just premiered at the Mayo Clinic and to 200 people, and it was well received. And we won several film festivals already. And we just
congratulations.
We just want to shine a really big light on this affliction and hope that people not only get educated but get inspired.
Nice.
Well, that's very honorable. Thank you, Stepen. That's great, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay, we got 30 seconds. So just real quickly, this Thursday, UAP Crossfire will not be a news show. Our intrepid producer has some other things that he's got to take care of. And since Bill is pretty much the one-man band, that's just the way it is. But the good Lord is willing and the river don't rise. We will be back in 1 week next Thursday. And in the interim, good God, we're getting closer and closer to Halloween. I hope you all have a spooky, spectacular, one of my favorite times of the year. That's basically it for DMR tonight. We hope you all have a great, great week. Marc Dantonio, Stepen Bradford, thank you both for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight. And as always, Gerry and Mark Center, guys, you're number one. That's it for tonight, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you next time around. Good night.
God bless Sam and Dean Winchester.